Now from Las Vegas is Pete Buttigieg, one of the candidates that we saw on stage last night. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
One of the things people noticed last night, the gloves were off. It was very intense between you and Amy Klobuchar. You're both considered to be two of the more moderate candidates on stage. You may be competing for the same pool of votes. Did that shape your confrontations with her last night?
Well, I think we have a real respectful and honest set of differences around policy, around some of the votes that have taken place in Washington, but also approach. I'm offering a different perspective. And I'll be honest, if you're looking for the most time spent in Washington, you've got your choices, and it's not going to be me. My governing experience was formed a long way from Washington as a mayor of a city confronting some of the toughest challenges that American communities are dealing with today. And I want to offer that perspective at a moment when Americans are so frustrated with the ways of Washington, and at a moment when we've got to make sure that we defeat Donald Trump. This is our only chance to put an end to the Trump presidency. We've got to get this right. And I don't believe that we can confront a president like this by returning to the Washington approach. I also don't think we can succeed against a president like this by further dividing Americans. That's why I'm concerned about the idea that we could be moving toward a scenario where it's down to Bernie Sanders or Mike Bloomberg. If it comes down to that, I think we're in trouble. I think our party ought to nominate a Democrat and somebody who has the experience, yes, but also the perspective to change what's going on in Washington before it's too late.
Question about Texas specifically, because our primary is right around the corner, March 3rd. How do you plan on appealing specifically to Democrats in Texas?
Well, we've been traveling to Texas often. My mother is from El Paso. It's a state that I have always admired and felt connected to. And, you know, it's a place that I think is really looking to the future. You look at the demographics, you look at the economy, and what I see whenever I'm talking to Texans is a determination to make sure that we develop not just an economy where everybody can succeed, but also as a future where everyone can belong. You know, in particular, looking at the targeting of Latinos for discrimination under this president, it's one more reason why there is such a high level of urgency about making sure that we defeat Donald Trump. I think Democrats in Texas are united about that much. And I also have found that there are a lot of independents and even some conservatives who maybe aren't going to agree with me on everything, but are just as frustrated and concerned about this White House as the rest of us. You know, you don't have to be a diehard Democrat to really struggle to look your kids in the eye and explain the behavior of the current president. All the more reason we need to get together and have a game plan for ending the Trump presidency and turning the page in Washington.
And that would be my next question, specifically when it comes to a red state, because Texas is still a red state. How do you plan on then winning the vote of Republican voters?
Well, engaging across the aisle is second nature to me. I was a Democratic mayor in Indiana, one of the most conservative states in America. And what I found is that there is actually a striking level of agreement in people on many of the steps we need. Most Americans, whether you're a hard Democrat or not, get that there's something wrong with Amazon or Chevron paying dollars on dollars in profits. Taxes. When more in taxes than some of the most profitable companies in the world. Most Americans want to raise wages. Think we need child care. Demand that we do something about health care and cut the cost of prescription drugs. Both parties think we need to act balance and take climate change seriously. Is a vision to invite as many Americans into a sense of belonging, common future that we all share. And we're not going to win everybody over. The president's got his hardcore, and I get that. We do have a American majority. Now we have to polarize the majority to deliver the changes we really need to see at the November and then for the whole country in the years to come.
So looking further down the road, if you get the nomination, you're a young, very young, moderate candidate. What kind of person are you looking for as a running mate? What kind of qualities do you want?
Well, I'll be thinking a lot about, first of all, of course, the ability to run the country if the worst happens. This is a very serious decision that is really a presidential decision, even though you make it before you know for sure if you'll be president or not. I also believe whether it's choosing a vice president or choosing a cabinet, that balance and diversity are going to be critically important. I have committed that my cabinet will be at least 50% women, and I believe that there need to be perspectives from every racial background, every professional background, at the table, not just because it is the right and fair thing to do, but because we'll make better decisions. And in the same way that my campaign, I believe, is stronger because it is 40% people of color and more than 50% women, think about building an administration, as I did back home, that calls in and draws in as many voices as possible.
So along those lines, your support among Latinos Saturday in Nevada at the caucuses, it will come out how strong that support is. How do you appeal, though, to the Latino voters over the other candidates? For example, former mayor of San Antonio, Julian Castro, his brother, Congressman Joaquin Castro, both of them endorsed Elizabeth Warren. So how do you convince people here in San Antonio, Democrats who might follow their lead, to choose you instead?
Well, first of all, I think Latino voters are not monolithic. We're talking about everybody from Central American families who have moved here fleeing violence to Puerto Ricans who are U.S. citizens all along, don't have the same immigration challenges that a lot of mixed status families, let's say with a Mexican heritage, have, but a lot of concern about the way that Puerto Rico is being treated as second class. So we need to recognize the different perspectives at stake and then deliver a message that really speaks to where people are. When I'm talking to Latino voters, I hear a lot about economic empowerment, supporting Latino-owned small businesses and raising wages, because we know that a minimum wage increase, for example, would disproportionately benefit Latino workers. It also means making sure everybody has health care, and we have the best vision for making sure everybody has access to excellent health care without kicking anybody off of their private plans. And we have got to fix an immigration system that is so cruel, so inhumane, so self-defeating. Manage the border in a way that is consistent with our values as well as with our laws. Protect dreamers and create a pathway to citizenship. All of these issues are at stake and particularly on the minds of Latinos, but the number one issue I hear from Latino voters and from Democratic voters across the board is making sure we are ready to defeat Donald Trump. Every time my party has won the White House in the last 50 years, it's been with a candidate who is looking to the future, calling people in and opening the door to a new generation. Not somebody who is a product of Washington and not somebody who is dividing Americans with extreme ideas. This is what my campaign is offering. This is how we are going to defeat Donald Trump. And I'm reaching out to Latino voters and to all Texans to be part of that vision.
Pete Buttigieg, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.